talked about family and how important family is. And I know a lot of my viewers, y'all got kids, spouses, stuff like that. Talk about how farming has changed your family and some of the hardships that you had to go through in order to experience that growth.
Man, for the family, I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade a bit of it. The farm life, man, what we're able to do together and seeing each other, and our little boy's 10 months old. That is the most incredible thing, to see my wife be able to mother him every single day and not have to leave him. And man, it's every day for lunch. We're there. I can walk at any point that I want. I could walk into the house and see my family, or they can be out here with us, or whatever it may be. That is such a blessing. We talk about your question with hardships and maybe some growing pains with it. I'm not going to lie, it's a struggle going back to the question about farming full time, that end goal. When there's times when, you're going on a family vacation, or the rest of your family is, whether it be my parents, her parents, whoever it may be, or friends or somebody, and they're going to, it could be a concert, it could be anything, and you got something to do on the farm. That could be like, that's a personal sacrifice that you just have to decide to make together as a family. And there's sometimes that it's harder for one than the other. But having situations like that, knowing that end goal is something that we've decided on together, makes it worth it. Because I don't think, I could certainly tell you, my wife and I, through some of those growing pains, of course there's times where we would disagree, or it may be something where one would get really disappointed because we wanted to go do something and the other one would know that we couldn't because either one of us had something going on with the farming operation. But I can't imagine now that we'd probably done it tenfold, missed out on absolutely everything to be where we're at with the family dynamic now, and with being able to, for both of us to be able to be here on the farm and raising our little boy. There's no way that we would trade that. There's no way. There's not a vacation that you could send us on. There's not a trip. There's nothing that we would have done that we would trade for that. So.
By the way, his boy is adorable. Oh my gosh, he is so adorable. Yeah, I love that. As someone who will eventually go back into farming, who wants to get married and have children one day, I love hearing about why family is so important, and that there are always going to be sacrifices that need to be made, but that the sacrifices can be worth it. Talk about that fine line between it being worth it and it not being worth it.
Yeah.
In terms of doing something on the farm that you feel like, oh, if we spent more time doing this, or if we pivot this way, or if we put more money into this towards the farm, how you've had to make compromises and say, you know what, not right now. I need to focus on the family one way or another. Talk about that.
So for us, when we started farming and knew that we wanted to farm full time, that was the biggest motivation, was to be able to raise our kids on the farm. And there are times that, don't ever get it wrong, that a full-time farmer gets to make their own schedule and all that. There's flexibility, no doubt, but there's still a lot of things that dictate what you have to do that day. To grow the business, there's times that you have to capitalize on opportunity and that you have to do things, and that you may rather be hanging out with family or something than doing what needs to be done right then and there. But if you do that all the time, what's the point? Because if the point is to raise your family on a farm, man, you could go somewhere else and maybe make some more money or something, or find something else that might be a lot easier and never see your family too. It's the whole point for me, is to be with my family and to raise them here on the farm. And if you're going to work the entire time and not spend that time with family, then what's the point of it? It's kind of the way that we view it. I've been bad about that in the past. There's been times that they're in bed for several hours, you're rolling at 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that, and you're just doing what's got to be done. But it's a lot easier to now, especially with us having our little boy, to say, man, this is more important. This will be here tomorrow. This is something that I could do. And growing up, that happens fast. That happens. Everybody tells you how fast it's going to happen, and it happens even faster than that. That's the thing, that having that balance of knowing that stuff will be there tomorrow, but there's also going to be times that you do need to capitalize on the then and there. You've got to make those decisions, and that comes with time. The wisdom to make that decision comes with time, I feel like, as you're doing it. The other big thing that I would say, too, is if Nicole would have been adamantly against us farming full-time, or if I would have been adamantly against us farming full-time, I think both of us, our marriage is more important than any career that we're going to have. And parenthood.
One more time now?
Our marriage is way more important than anything that we're ever going to do as a career or any job or anything. So knowing that is something that you have to understand, that farming, people talk about it being a lifestyle and all that, and it very much is a really deep commitment. You in a lot of cases are going to live where you work and so on and so forth, but it's still a career. And I wouldn't encourage anybody to make a career decision that it's going to be detrimental to their family in any circumstance. You're going to be married to that person, should be, no matter what you're doing. And you're going to be that child's mother or father, regardless of what you're doing for a living. So you need to make those decisions based off of your family first, is the way that I feel. I wouldn't get into farming if I knew that my wife is going to be miserable because of it, or that my children wouldn't grow up in a better spot. And she wouldn't do that either. That's the thing, is a big reason that we are have been able to grow our business and that we both farm full time is because we're both on the same page with it. And we both know that brings us happiness. If it's going to bring dismay and stress and discomfort to your marriage or your personal life or something, you got to really evaluate, is this really worth it? Can I still be involved with agriculture or something that I'm passionate about and it not cost these things? Because in my mind and in my life, my marriage and my fatherhood are more important to me than anything that I'm going to do as a career.
Man, yeah, it's really sad when there are so many people who go into farming and agriculture, or even homesteading, and they might have the idea of, I'm doing this for the family, doing this for my spouse, doing this for my kids, and the very thing that they're trying to do for their loved ones ends up being the very thing that detaches them from their loved one. Whether it's divorce, whether it's the kids never coming back, whether it's being in a loveless marriage, or not having any intimacy with your children. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of that, especially in farming, and not a lot of people talking about that. So just first of all, thank you for answering the question, because that's part of this channel that I want to highlight. Is it's not just about farming. There is so much more of life around farming, but when we make farming a god, an idol in our life, we end up losing the very things that we put before it or put below it. So if you're putting wife and kids below farming, then you're going to lose wife and kids. And it might not be physical loss. It might be a spiritual, emotional, mental loss or detachment from them. And so thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for being honest, saying, man, I made mistakes and I've done this and done that. Because a lot of men especially need to hear that.